and there be hanged by the neck till he be dead, dead, dead. Now, do you have anything to say, young man?
Yes, Your Honor, I do. You can go to hell, hell, hell.
Generations long forgotten, bound into the past. Every trace of life destroyed, attempt to get it sorted. Only for destroyed, all never needed selfishly. Die and sham, bound to maintain all your publicly. Messages unfolded, sitting us into witness. The words of those certainly until let's go all exist. Silence of your useless cry. The supine pain of suffering becomes reality.
Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Barry, That Goat Metal Show, with my partner Rich, the silent producer. We are on with the man, the myth, the legend, the ultimate angel, Jimmy from the block. How you doing, brother? Thank you for coming along, man. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you
All
for having
right.
me.
All right, man. Yeah, that was I've been hearing the 4-song EP. I just bought it yesterday. I found because I heard that you didn't have any before, and now I went onto the Bandcamp and I purchased mine. So I can't wait to just throw that shit in my car and just blast it for all the people in Yonkers to hear. So yeah, man. So yeah, just want to know how things have been going. How's everything been going with you so far?
Good. YouTube's going good. Got a lot of opportunities lately. A lot of stuff like this. Just interviewed Dan from the Ohio band Ton. So trying to do more interviews. Got a lot of brutal death metal. Some '90s deathcore people. Your type of crowd.
All right.
Don't want to name their names. I want to keep it surprises. But
right.
a band that we really love to talk about for New York deathcore from the '90s. And then just focusing on work and married life and the new Impure Conception release. It's going to be called Veins of Sorrow. 8 tracks of ripping corpse thrash metal mixed with dehumanized, irate type of New York and Repudiation, Mortal Decay, Scatter Remnants, all the classics that I like. So can't wait to see. We just got the drummer from the band Furia 5.
Yeah,
So
he's a good drummer.
Like snare, hardcore, brutal death metal type of sound. So we're going, everything's going to be super heavier, the thrash is going to be way thrash. Your guitar solos, just everything's going to be cranked up. We can't wait to release it.
Sweet, man, sweet. I mean, look, I'm just gonna put up your your EP over here. A demo? Do you consider a demo or just an EP? Really? I mean, that doesn't sound like a demo.
It was I'll tell you what it was. So it was like a thrash metal release that my guitarist Caleb had that he wrote back in like 2019, and he didn't know what to do with it because he wrote the whole thing, so he shelved it for like 3 or 4 years. And then we always talked about starting a band. So he hit me up one day. He was like, "Hey, would you want to do vocals?" So I said yes. So everything was written, the lyrics were written, everything. All I did was show up one day in his hot attic with like 1 or 2 takes on the vocals on like a crappy mic, and the rest is history. So 2 takes. That's all it was. That's the guitarist in the Solstice shirt, Caleb. He's the mastermind behind that demo. We wrote the whole thing. All I did was just show up and do vocals. Like I said, we did 1 or 2 takes. We picked the best parts, totally raw, unmixed, unmastered, no reverb. Just we wanted to be like Ripping Corpse on the '80s demos, and that was that.
Yeah, I gotta say, I mean, I like I said, I truly enjoyed it, man. It gave me all those vibes of all that, early sound of what, when brutal death metal was getting its infancy stages of coming out with their sound. It wasn't, and that was what I was telling Rich. I said, your stuff doesn't sound over pasteurized like a lot of them. There's so many brutal death metal bands around. A lot of them are starting to sound the same, or some of them are just overusing their stuff. So I just wanted to hit you with this quick question. Being that, look, you are a young guy. I know me and you had this conversation. You're the same age as my son. So I'm just going to, we'll throw it out there, right? Considering that, what brutal death metal had their beginnings and the bands that came out in the 90s, what gave you that drive to say, I want to know more about this era, and I want to take this and let it be a part of me? What was that driving force for that?
I was into like old school death metal and thrash metal and like extreme metal, I guess you could say. And then I remember I saw Deicide live. I saw Mortal Decay open for them. And Mortal Decay live for Deicide, I was like, holy crap, this is the greatest thing ever. Totally changed everything for me. Mortal Decay changed everything for me. And then from there, just research, reading the CD booklets, the liner notes, Metal Archives, similar bands, Then I got into the Broken Hopes, the Levidities, the Flesh Grinds, Scatter Remnants, just all 90s brutal death metal.
Yeah, all right.
Tons of listening, tons and tons.
Yeah, because you basically have you got more knowledge about the era I played in than maybe some people who were there with me. And that's one thing. Yeah, you do. I spoke to a couple of guys. Yeah, this Jimmy, man, he got all the knowledge on all the stuff that was going on. So, and there was even certain bands that you talked about that were around in our time that maybe we did play with one time, we just forgot about them, and then you brought it up. It's like, oh shit, Ramon actually was the one that told me about. So it's like, yeah, look at that. It's great. It's just great. It's a nice reminiscing of some of those bands.
Yeah, I think one of the bands was End of One that I mentioned that you were kind of like forgotten about. And End of One was a big one for me, at least.
Yeah, very, very, very cool, man. That Rich, you got something for Jimmy?
Yeah, man. Been watching the channel for quite some time. You have a lot of knowledge about old school, brutal death metal. And out of curiosity, how did you acquire such a large collection of classic like demos and cassettes and stuff? Because some of that stuff is really hard to get, and you almost have a little bit of almost everything. Like, how did you come about like just getting that massive collection together?
Well, a lot of my collection came from when I was single, so I was able to just like, I didn't have to worry about my wife being like, "Why did you just drop $400 on a cassette lot?" But a lot of it, before like during COVID, cassettes were still relatively really cheap, so you could get like really good old rare demo tapes for like $20 to $40. and we're talking, good quality stuff. Now cassettes are like $150 to $300 for some of them. It's very bad for the market, especially when everyone got their stimulus checks. Everyone was just dropping the stimulus checks on that and like death metal shirts. And then you have a lot of like the trend hoppers coming in and from like metalcore and stuff into death metal that like raised the price up, like trust fund kids, hype kids. But a lot of it just asking the band members or like anyone in like brutal death metal groups on Facebook or Instagram, like, hey, searching for this tape. Anyone have one? Staying up late all night, hours on eBay and Discogs, just searching. So I'm just a dedication and a devotion to collecting physical media.
All right, yeah, because it's usually I do a lot of my shopping on eBay and stuff, and I know sometimes if you're trying to find something, I would go to a spot like eBay, see what I can find that's in a decent price range, and plus the it's got to be good. I mean, I remember going searching for the picture disc of Venom's At War with Satan. Like I've always wanted it. Like, and there was people selling it for ridiculous prices on there and $50, $60, $70 or whatever. And so I saw it. Somebody was selling it for $24 and I just jumped right on it. Luckily, nobody bid on it. I was just so happy to hold it. Then I was like, okay, it's put away. Now I got to look, the next thrill's got to come, like what's going to be the next, it thing to get, and, yeah, it's really tough now, man, when you're trying to get, especially the older stuff, I mean, Rich got like a nice collection of shirts. He's got vintage upon vintage. And there's people that I know that would pay him handsomely for those shirts, and he will not want to give them up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I sold a Mortal Decay long sleeve for $700.
Whoa.
Damn.
What year was it? Because sometimes that's where it comes in. All right, so it's considered vintage. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
It's good. It's considered vintage.
The vintage shirt community is very appalling, where it's like you go on Instagram, there's like thousands of things that just bootleg the exact replica anymore of the exact design. It's on a nicer shirt. Because I have probably like 30 vintage shirts that are all expensive, internal bleeding, scatter remnants, Mortal Decay, whatever it may be, dead in. And I pretty much never wear it anymore just because of fear of it getting destroyed, pinhole in it, just ruining the value, ruining the shirt. Especially now that I have a cat who likes to put holes in shirts. So it's like, it's not even worth it to me. I'd rather just buy a reprint or like a modern shirt of the band, like the gray scatter remnants I wear a lot, as opposed to like my original like Inherent with like the demon guy on it over there.
Yeah.
Just because it would break my heart if my cat put a hole in a $500 Mortal Decay long sleeve. You know what I mean?
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because I think I sold an old, I had an old DSI shirt, right? I put it out. It had like maybe a hole like right here. I put it in the description. I still got $300 for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, even with the hole. So I guess it just depends on who really wants it that bad. I guess
if someone's willing to pay for it, they will.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let me get into this because it's a question that I mentioned to you a little earlier, but I wanted to get your take on it. As far as like the newer brutal death metal bands that are out now, because I think that a lot of the newer brutal death metal bands or so-called slam bands tend to give the genre a bad name, so to say. Since some people like to make fun of the genre. Do you think that a lot of those bands are just being oversaturated, or do you think it's just something where they're just trend hopping?
It's both, you could say, because a few years ago there's just like an influx. It goes for both categories of brutal death metal right now, because you have more of the California blast bands like Disgorge and like Putridity, Brodekin clones that you click on, certain labels, and every single band, there's like 1,000 releases, every single band's just
Yeah.
300 BPM with the drums, lightning fast, nothing of like substance. And then on the other hand, you have a bunch of bands trying to replicate New York death metal from the 90s with a much more hardcore approach. And those are becoming a dime a dozen, where it's just like beatdowns and slams. You know, a lot of these bands call themselves brutal death metal, but they forget the brutal death metal part.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, you know,
Yeah. I see what you're saying. That there was a band from Australia that sent me their stuff that they want me to review. They call themselves like brutal death metal influenced by hardcore, and you could see, you could hear it. It doesn't sound bad, to be honest with you. It's actually pretty good, but then again, it's in that vein, you know.
right.
So
I have no problem with hardcore or brutal death metal or combinations, but it gets to me in a lot of the brutal death metal community when something says that they're brutal death metal, they're wearing the shirts, they have the album cover, it looks brutal death metal font, and you put it on and it's, you know, metalcore, hardcore, beatdown, you know, no riffs. Just makes the influx of people that get into brutal death metal, they look at that and they're like, this is brutal death metal? Like, this is generic garbage. Like, where's the metal?
yeah,
Because you look at bands back in the day of New York death metal, you know, they were all bumping Morbid Angel, Human Eyes, Ripping Corpse, you know, actual death metal and bands with riffs, you know, Slayer. You know, the bands nowadays are influenced not by their predecessors, but by the New York death metal bands themselves.
Okay, yeah, that does. I mean, you just hope that eventually, and that's why I give a lot of credit to your band. You know, your band is giving that thing to show, hey, this is what made it what it is. You know, and you try to bring that back, and I think that's very refreshing.
It's one of those things where it's like we want to make brutal death metal metal again, because it seems like in recent years it has very much lost its identity of what brutal death metal even means. The
Yeah,
average person, the only slam they know is like comedy slam by someone like Peeling Flesh with like rap samples and like fun slam. You know, they don't even know about like internal bleeding or devourment. To them, slam is like a clown genre, where slam
yeah,
back in the '90s was this demonic, satanic, absolute crushing, brutal genre that was taken to be very seriously.
yep, absolutely, absolutely. All right, Rich, you got something there?
Yeah, no, just was gonna say that, you know, like a lot of people have YouTube channels like Gruesome Sean and Melanie and
Good friends,
you
good
know,
friends.
yeah, and Ken, old school Ken, had his channel and stuff. But you know, your channel represents not only the old school stuff, you know, from a perspective of someone who has a knowledge, but you also showcase a lot of the newer stuff that's coming out. And you know, like right now, like you said, death metal, brutal death metal goes through trends, whether it's slam, whether it's the Pit Viper, Maggot Stomp era, whether it was, you know, like Final Resting Place kind of stuff, like hardcore mixed with like death metal. But where do you think we're at right now that's really hot, and what bands you feel are like the current ones that stand out that are worth giving a listen to?
There's a few. Virologist is very good brutal death metal.
Mhm.
Nuclear
Yeah,
Remains is very good brutal death metal that do bands like Scatter Remnants and Mortal Decay Justice. Anadonia has a little bit more, especially on the first demo. Anadonia has a little bit more of that death metal sound in the brutal death metal hardcore genre. Protrusion, a new band from Iron Fortress that I posted, is another really good case of like gore guts, brutal death metal infused with like more decay vocals. So there are great, amazing newer bands that are doing it justice. It's just really hard when 1,000 bands come out every day and it's an oversaturation of that. I really try to showcase what I think are like the highlights and stuff that I really care about, and I think that you should listen.
Sounds
sweet.
good. Yeah.
All right. So I'm gonna give you a question that Tone has sent. You know, just so you can, you know, he gave me, this was one of his questions. He asked, "Do you prefer American brutal death metal or European brutal death metal?"
American, for sure. American. Uh, I would say '90s American, but then I would say 2000s European, because that uh, in America by the 2000s everything was starting to become technical death metal, where it was like bands like Spawn of Possession and Necrophagus and stuff like that were kind of overtaking brutal death metal. And in Europe, you had a lot of bands like Defeated Sanity coming out, Putridity, Cerebral Effusion, kind of like really taking brutal death metal to the next like point in the genre.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like when the Americans they started it, and they kind of like were trying to escalate it to something else. The Europeans were picking it up and just like taking it over for what it started in the beginning. So you still had that brutal
Yeah.
sound, and that was always my thing. I always said when people go and they talk about brutal death metal, and they try to down it. I say, listen, that was one of the only genres that I know. Well, I still stick to like the early sounds of it. Is that when you had an album cover with a fucking image, and you had the lyrics, and you had the music gave you visual. That was the thing I enjoyed about brutal death metal. It always gave you some type of visual, and to me, that's what brutal death is like. That horror, that image, that sound. It just gave you an image, and yeah, then that's when I said when things started getting a little bit, like you said, more everything just started sounding weird and more technical and stuff. It kind of lost me with some of the stuff that they started doing later on.
Yeah, because you gotta remember too that you had like the MySpace emo deathcore wave from like 2005 to like 2014, and every album cover was like futuristic with like robots, and like it looked very like clean.
Yep.
Like as a genre just looked like really clean, and the sound was like really like triggery and plasticky and like overproduced and fake. It was like I wanted more, of that dehumanized, defeated sanity type of sound where it was just brutal and raw and street.
Yeah. Absolutely, absolutely, man. And I'm gonna get this is from me. Just see what happens. If your band, you said I like the fact that your band sticks to the OG formula, which is something that I love about everything that you're doing. But if you guys, let's just say you hit that one song and that one group of people, they blow you up and you guys get really big. Would you consider changing your sound to appease, or would you stick to the to what's been going on and what made you popular?
I would stick to how we are. I mean, every song is gonna follow the same formula of just heaviness, uh, 90s New York death metal sound, 80s thrash metal sound. It's always going to have guitar solos in every song. It's not going to change. I have no reason to change. If we get big, that's great. If we are like a big trend, that's great. I'm still going to be showing the same bands like Mold Decay, Lividity, Ripping Corpse. That has nothing to do with anything at all.
All right, and the second part to that question is, then how do you feel about the bands who do that?
The bands that do that are not a concern at me at all. They're doing their own thing. If they want to claim to be brutal death metal and play in front of metalcore kids, if they want to tour with Veil of Maya and Whitechapel, that's totally fine. That has nothing to do with me or anything that involves me. If a band like Veil of Maya or Job for a Cowboy, for whatever reason, wanted us to be on that bill, there better be like internal bleeding as well on that bill. Otherwise, we're not doing it. You know what I mean? Like if it was just us and then like 3 other like metalcore bands, we wouldn't do it. But if at least like Afterbirth or Internal Bleeding or anything else, then we would do it just because there's that little bit of brutal death metal. Maybe some metalcore kid will be like, "Oh, what's this?"
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, Rich.
I wanted to ask you about your relationship with Mortal Decay. I know that that's one of your favorite bands, but I noticed that the vocalist has been on your channel. You've done skits with him. Like, have you known each other since back in the days, or did the relationship come together, like through the channel?
I was young going to shows. I lived in Philly. He lived in South Jersey. But I'd be like 18, 19 going to shows, and I had a great relationship with him and everyone in Mortal Decay. I would always go up to him at shows, be like, "Hey, big fan." Got to talking. Then, I was like, "Let's do an interview," and then we just started hanging out. I recently moved to South Jersey, so we're like 20, 30 minutes away. We're always at Applebee's.
Yeah.
We're just friends, you know.
Nice.
I just
Oh.
did. He has a hardcore band called Chopcore. He just brought that back, and I was a guest vocalist on it.
Oh,
So,
sweet.
yeah,
Is that out or is that coming out?
it's a YouTube track. It's just on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
So,
Okay. All right. Send me the link, man. I'll check that shit out.
yeah.
All right.
So
Definitely,
if you
man.
want to hear me doing some hardcore vocals, there you go.
There you go, man. Why not, man? Every once in a while, we got to venture off. You know, we got to show our skills. You know.
Yeah.
All right. Let me get another question here from Tone. He wanted to know what other genre of metal do you listen to besides brutal death metal?
Pretty much everything. Like, I like stuff like 80s power metal, like Glacier. We got Power Mad, Racer X. I like hair metal. I like glam metal. You know, Dokken, Twisted Sister, Warrant. I like thrash metal, King Diamond, Merciful Fate, Exciter, speed metal, everything. I like some black metal. My knowledge of black metal is like generic stuff like Mayhem, Dark Throne, Immortal. You know, I'm not the biggest on black metal. I prefer war metal like Conqueror, Revenge, stuff like that. I love grindcore, Napalm Death. You have the Napalm Death, Terrorizer, Repulsion, Brutal Truth. So I'm
So
pretty.
So it's pretty safe to say you're your full genre. Like you don't like even though brutal death metal is pretty much your your identity. You are open to everybody else, so to say.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool, and I think that's another
Real
thing that's
metal.
missing. Yeah. That's a real metalhead. That's a real metalhead right there. That, and some people don't seem to understand. You got a lot of those gatekeepers who, like if you got a brutal death metal gatekeeper and he hears you saying, "Oh, I like some of the some Warrant or whatever," they go, "Oh, Jimmy's a poser." They'll probably come out with something stupid like that. It's like, but the real poser is just somebody who doesn't open themselves up to all music. You got to open yourself up. You got to enjoy everything.
I think it's fine if you want to stay secluded to a certain genre. Like, I know there's some people that only listen to black metal, and there's nothing wrong with just listening to black metal. That's your personal preference. But making fun of someone for being into, like, Mayhem and Dark Throne, or even brutal death metal, like, Mortician, and they have, like, Guns N' Roses on the playlist, that doesn't make them there's a million worse things that they could have on their phone than Guns N' Roses,
Yeah, absolutely.
Even like metalcore. Like, I used to have a bunch of kids being like, "Jimmy, I listen to Converge. Does that make me a poser?" I'm like, no. Like, just listen to what you want at the end of the day. Like, being a poser, someone that comes into the scene from a trend, claims to like Mortician, everything's Mortician. You're a poser if you don't like Mortician. Then 5 months later, he's over there listening to Deftones. And Mortician's gone. You know what I mean? Like, that's a poser thing. You can listen to Deftones, and but if you have Mortician on your playlist, it's like, all right, that's just what you like. Like, I like a lot of other genres besides metal too. Like, I like a lot of like Euro dance, like 90s techno. I like a lot of stuff like the Smiths, the Depeche Mode, Dead Can Dance.
That's awesome, bro.
I'm very like open to other genres that are extreme as well, outside of just metal.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. Really cool. That's really good, man. I mean, it just it's refreshing to hear that. Considering the fact that some people just want to tend to stay secluded into their into what they're into. I mean, look, there's nothing wrong if you want to stay secluded. But then don't go be fake about it when you're into something else and then make it seem like It's just I hate people like that. I really do. It's just fucking ridiculous. It is.
Yeah, I mean. I'd rather someone have like Nickelback, Stained, and Trapped, and then have like Mortician and Suffocation and stuff, as opposed to like someone being like, "Yeah, I love brutal death metal," and then he's out of the scene in 5 months with like metalcore and bad white belt deathcore later.
Oh my god!
You hate to see it.
All right, Rich, you got something there.
Yeah, no, we've been talking about the page, Jimmy from the Block, but also, I wanted to just touch base on your other page, which was the memes page with the, what was it called? Extreme.
I have one on Facebook and one on Instagram. The one on Facebook is called Extreme Metal Memes Demand Extreme Posting, and it's a ripoff of the Brutal Truth album. Extreme Conditions Demand Extreme Responses. But that is what really started. I owe my life to that page, and I owe my life to the page that made me want to do that. It all everything of my identity, everything comes from the Facebook page. It was an old mortician meme page. It was called I Make Memes While Listening to Mortician. And that page is the page that blew up Mortician with like the Pit Vipers, the Caveman, the Sick Horror Freak stuff. That page was everything to me. I love that page. So my page was like myself doing what they were doing. I owe everything to that. That page blew up during COVID. It has like 34,000 followers now. I'm trying to build the Instagram up. It has like 7,400, but yeah, the memes were a great way for me to showcase bands. I have a picture of like someone getting beat up and in like a nerd band shirt, and he'd be wearing like Defeated Sanity, and all these people would be like, oh, "What's this band? Like, what's it was it was the greatest outlet to show people new music, to just have fun with friends. Like, it was amazing.
Yeah, it's a real funny page. I advise people to check it out.
Yeah,
Right.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that was the start of me for everything for like metal influencer wise. That was my original start. I didn't start YouTube until like 2 years after that.
I had saw the page, but I didn't know that you were involved. And then when I started watching your YouTube channel, that's when both of them connected. And I was like, oh shit, he's the one that was running that page. So it was going on for a bit, and it was blowing up. Yeah.
Yeah, that page was huge for me from like 2019 to like 2021, 2022. And then Facebook got weird and they started like changing their formats and stuff, and like people didn't see the page as much, and then everyone got hit with that. It was like really weird. You need nowadays with Facebook, no one's on Facebook anymore, and it's all like AI bots, which really sucks. Like all the kids just moved to Instagram, which sucks. There's like not that much people on Facebook except for like the really older crowd. I wish it was flipped to where like my Instagram was the more popular one instead of the Facebook, but it is what it is. I still get good traction on that. But yeah, times are different, but it is what it is. Now they just want you to pay for all your stuff to be seen.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Yeah, I meant to tell you too that I believe what's his name, Cal. That's Caleb,
Yeah,
right? That's
Caleb,
he had commented on the review I did, and I didn't realize that he was a Go to Memphis fan too.
Yeah, I've been getting everyone in the Go to Mentis. I've never saw like any mention of Go to Mentis before me, and ever since I've been like really like pushing the band, I see like all these like Instagram kids with like the Severed Ties profile picture and stuff, and like it's funny to see.
Yeah, it is, because it's like once you did that, we started getting orders for like the hoodies and the shirts and stuff like that. I was like, oh shit, man, fucking Jimmy did it.
People, I tell all these bands this every day. I'm like, even the label Iron Fortress, like they always send me stuff to promote because they were like, you are like the biggest reason why stuff sells to me, because people see like the stuff and they go out and they're like, oh, like Jimmy has it, like Jimmy said it, good thing. Like it feels nice to be able to do that, like really push like guys, like listen to this deathcore band from the 90s that hasn't been active in forever and buy their new stuff. And you get all these kids buying their stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's great, man. I had I think it was a young lady from Albany picked up the original self-titled from us, spent $35 for it. I was real happy. I was like, wow, look at this. So people just, it's great. And I think we thank you for that, man. The band really thanks you for that, brother.
Total support for Go to Mentis from me. Thank you again for this.
Yeah, man. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I wish I had original Severed Ties CD, but it is what it is.
Yeah, man. You could go and maybe put away some money and see some guy from France is probably selling it for $200.
I can't find any. I haven't looked. I've been looking.
Oh, man. All right, Rich, you got something else there?
No, I was just gonna say that before I'm get ready to kick the bucket, I'll go into the storage unit and separate a bunch of shit and tell Barry to pass it on to Jimmy.
There you
So
go.
you'll
Put me
get the
in your will.
original like that.
Put me in your
But
will.
my next question was with Impure Conception, are you guys gonna play any shows, and like around when do you expect the new album to possibly come out?
So one more song needs drums. All the songs need guitars. And then I just go in. I can do vocals in a weekend. And then I want 2 guest vocalists from 90s brutal death metal bands on the East Coast. They agreed to be on it for sections. So once everything's complete, we're going to start talking to record labels. We've had 3 primarily big, 2 underground record labels for death metal that are pretty big. 1 mainstream record label that's like really big for extreme metal. So we're gonna look at options, see what everything works with, like contracts and stuff. I mean, I really don't need a record label at all. I'm a big household name, not to toot my own horn, and I have big social media platforms, so I really don't. It's just a problem of why we didn't have demos for a while is because Caleb hand makes everything. So it takes a lot of time for him to hand make it. He has a wife, he has a kid now, so he can't run to the post office and just like start making CD mock-ups and custom make shirts and everything and send out orders and keep up with all the stuff. So we just want a record label to just print everything pretty much, and the promotion is of course nice too, but the promotion's not a big concern as much as it's like shooting everything. Hopefully everything within the next 2 months will be ready to go. And then primarily, it's definitely going to be this year. So maybe a little bit before summer, after summer. We are going to be playing shows. We want to stay primarily East Coast, nothing like big like tours, like anywhere for right now. Like I said, 3 out of the 4 of us are carpenters, so we all work day jobs. But we want to tour. We want to play shows in like Philly, New Jersey, New York, Maryland, Delaware. Like pretty much like hit the East Coast really, really good.
Nice.
Oh, cool, man. And speaking of which, I mean, you've mentioned it a few times, and I can understand that as far as being a married YouTuber, metalhead, so on as a musician. How's that been with your wife having to deal with you and you taking up time, whether you're doing a channel or you're doing your music and stuff? Has there been any, has she been very understanding or maybe a little backlash?
It is hard at times because I used to do this stuff at like when I was single, 1 a.m. on my own terms. I would edit a video 13 hours a day. I would just film, record anytime I wanted. Now, it's, there has been some bickering about like, I got to get this done and da 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 da, and you promised date night. I'm not gonna lie. I don't lie. So I can't say it's always sunshine and flowers, but there is a lot of time where it's like, hey, I got this and this to do Tuesday and Wednesday. Let's go on a date Thursday, Friday, or like she's in school right now, so it's like, hey, let me know when you need to like do homework or study, and I'll go like do some YouTube or like do some content or whatever, and then we'll come back at like 9 o'clock and have dinner, that type of stuff. So it's hard at times, but it's been a little easier and better with her school schedule.
Okay, that's good. I mean, I get it. Even me now, my wife, she doesn't mind the whole thing where I tell her, look, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, stuff with the band. Everything's still gotta communicate. You still gotta have communication. You still gotta make sure to make time. That's the whole thing. Once the time starts becoming more separate, that's when issues start. And I get that. That's really good, man. Very, very mature, bro. Very good. I mean, a lot of guys, look, some are just passionate about their music or passionate about their content, and they tend to, leave behind some, they're dealing with family, and that could cause some problems.
It was very hard for me because I had not like an ego, but it was like I wouldn't even call it like addiction either, but like before her, it was more so like YouTube and Facebook and music was like my number one. Now it's like more and more it's becoming like 4 and 5 and 6. I got pets now I gotta take care of. I didn't have pets before. I have 9 to 5 now. I didn't have a 9 to 5 before during COVID. You know, I worked like sporadic hours at like part-time jobs. You know, I have my wife now. You know, I have bills. I have, you know, anything. I need to get dinner ready when she comes back from school. You know, so, you know, as much as I love social media and all this stuff, you know, social media doesn't pay my, or it doesn't pay. I get paid for social media, but it doesn't pay my bills. It doesn't hold me at night. It's not
Yeah.
there for me when you know what I mean? And
Yep.
don't get me wrong, I made many friends and relationships with the metal community and stuff like that. I'm not saying, you know, I don't have anyone online. You know, like I consider you a close friend. You know what I mean? I'm not saying that, but I'm saying, you know, when it's 10 p.m. and I'm in my bed, you know, who's holding me? My girl. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I agree, man. Trust me, I do. All right. Let me. We're gonna be getting closer to winding down, so I'm gonna get one more question that Tone had left. So to get it to you, so I guess, yeah, this one is. He wanted to know if you're into horror movies, right? If you are, what's your 5 favorite horror movies?
My first favorite horror movie, like number one greatest horror movie of all time, is Exorcist 3.
Oh, love
I love
Exorcist 3. Yeah.
Exorcist 3. Love Exorcist 3. Um, I would say Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors.
Doc, yeah.
Although sometimes I really enjoy the second one. Really enjoy the second one. Sometimes it's very unpopular and very uncool, and it's considered a very homosexual movie. But I just find the second Elm Street so fascinating to me, and it's the most like different of them all. So either Elm Street 2 or 3, I really have to say. Um, The Thing from 1982 is a classic for me. Uh, if you ever played the video game, it's like it picks up right after the story. You find out who is the thing at the end. Very good continuation, approved by John Carpenter. I would say for fun, Return of the Living Dead is always a fun
Yeah.
one. Um, and then number one, possibly either Scream 2 or It 1990 or even Phantasm.
Phantasm.
Yeah.
Something you know, like
Yeah,
Phantasm.
I love
It gives them nightmares.
I love Phantasm, but that was a movie that gave me PTSD as a kid.
Uh,
Yeah, you
I
know
like
you know the mortician. I forgot when he got his finger cut off and he
Conan.
had the yeah he
Yeah,
had the yellow blood. Well, why did I see that scene? And my dad came over with a hot dog with mustard on it. Fucked me all up, man. As a kid, I didn't touch mustard for years because of that movie.
yeah. I like Phantasm too.
Yeah, but I rewatched it and I got all of them, so yeah, I'm over it. I'm over
Yeah,
it.
the other ones I watched in like when I was younger, and it was just like I could care less.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
There's a lot of horror movies that I could just care less about. Really popular ones too. Chris from Internal Bleeding wants to like rip off my head every time I say it, but I think that Alien, like the first Alien, is one of the worst horror movies of all time.
Oh my.
It is the most boring thing ever. Nothing happens for like 45 minutes. The alien comes out of the chest. They walk around in their underwear for like another hour. Like the alien comes back. Like it is the most boring thing ever. Like I'm like if you didn't grow up with it or see Star Wars first for like the technological like sci-fi spaceships and stuff, like I could see it being like, wow, like this looks amazing. Like they're in space and outer space and ships but when you was born in 1998 and you're already exposed to like any type of any movie nowadays,
Yeah.
it's like this is terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It was that movie was made basically to be a suspense monster chases people through a ship. That was the premise of it.
It's just
Now,
Jaws in space.
now they rebounded when they did the second one, Aliens, the second one with the Space Marines and
That
them
one
fight.
starts off so slow too. It's like again, it's just like it's like 45 minutes of nothing, and then it's like okay, like We got some action now.
Well, it's 45 minutes or nothing, but then it's because that movie's long. I think it was like about 2 hours and 20 minutes long, something like that. So you got most of it. So it made up. It made up for it at least a little bit.
I have ADHD too, so that doesn't. I like unmedicated. I didn't know I had ADHD until I was like 24, and I'm still unmedicated. So it's like I need Neil. That's why Impure Conception is the way it is. It's like ripping corpse, then it's like dehumanized, then it's like Racer X and Exciter, and then it's like back to Slam, and then it's like Repudiation. It's like I told him everything has to be happening in like every second. Something different has to be happening. It's ADHD metal.
That's what makes it good, man. It's a mix of
never play the same riff like, twice. There's never like more than 10 seconds of the same thing twice. Like we're not doing that.
Yeah, and that was the one thing I gave you as far as your vocals is great. You tend to do two different styles of vocals. It's not just one. You're not keeping it one. I really enjoyed that, man. I thought you did a great job.
Well, Caleb does some backing vocals on that too. We're very both like Frank Rini, Dehumanize. Like we can hit really low vocals, and we can both hit like that throat froggy type of stuff. Both, so it very complexes like both of our techniques. Now the microphone we used was very blown out and crappy, so that's why we a lot of like feedback and stuff. And like I said, it's like 2 takes, but for the end result, it was very just like raw and attic. We wanted to feel like it was like an 80s raw attic demo.
Honestly, I couldn't even really tell it. To me, it was just great. It sounded great altogether.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, Rich, you got something else there?
It was just a curiosity question, man. I noticed that you had WCW pillowcases in the background. You're a big wrestling fan from back in the day.
I love wrestling.
Yeah,
I love.
What was some of your early memories or things that stuck with you that really got you into wrestling?
The Undertaker coming out. That was big for me and my father. Stuff like that. It's like I grew up probably around like 2006 to like 2010 is when I was like watching like actual like WWE and like TNA and stuff, like when it was like on every Monday, Thursday, Friday, Wednesday. I'd go on the Spanish channel the next day just to rewatch what I watched in Spanish. It'd be like Hell in a Cell, Matt Hardy, John Cena. I'm like, I just watched the wrestling again. You know what I mean? And I just loved wrestling so much. The John Cena's, the Triple H's, and obscure stuff like Paul London, Brian Kendrick, Mr. Kennedy. Like that was my era. Crime Time. That was like my era as like a kid. And then towards like high school, like my college years is when I really got into like WCW, the Attitude Era, like 93 to like 99 wrestling, like really, like the NWO, the Kevin Nashes, the Stings, obscure stuff like Alex Wright, all sorts of things.
It's the dance, if I remember. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then like any German thing, they turn him into like his German dictator villain type of character because he's German.
Oh my goodness!
Just like how like every single like black wrestler turns into like a dancer or a rapper.
Yeah,
certain ones had to turn into like an evil person because of the failed painter.
Yeah.
Oh
man, so I got what was one of my last questions for you, Jay. I mean, I think you already know my 4. I remember we asked me. I think my 4 favorite slam bands, and I these were the albums that I say Suffocation, Eternal Bleeding, Mortal Suffering, and Dehumanized. Right, that's my Mount Rushmore of brutal death metal from that time. What would be yours?
So it depends what you're asking. Are you asking what my personal favorite 4 brutal death metal bands are, or are you asking what I think are the top 5 best, like big 4 of actual like brutal death metal?
Either which way. I mean, it could go either which way. Those are my 4. Like when I think of I say the albums, but the bands itself too. To me, those are the bands that pretty much are the foundation of what is brutal death metal today. So what would be yours?
So I would say, for in general, what I think are the 4 greatest brutal death metal bands of all time, besides like what I think are my personal favorite. I can do both. So big 4 brutal death metal in general: Defeated Sanity, since the
Okay.
90s, no misses, no bad records, continually playing, continuously putting out good stuff. Head force of European brutal death metal, Defeated Sanity, is one. That's my favorite one too. That one is the most New York death metal sounding one.
This one's
Nice.
That one's like Dehumanized Internal Bleeding. That's like the cynic, atheist, gore guts, hero type of one.
yeah.
I love both. Suffocation, only because of that early wave. Like they're the first bands I would really consider like brutal death metal, as opposed to like Cannibal Corpse at the time. You know, nothing else was really brutal besides like Broken Hope for Suffocation. But I feel like Suffocation had a little bit of that brutal edge. I don't care what anyone says. They did not start the slam. The slam came from Ripping Corpse and Demonacy. Suffocation only popularized it with Legion of Veracity.
Yep.
Internal Bleeding,
Yeah.
New York death metal, slam. It was before Repudiation. It was before Devourment. Before everything. Again, probably not one of the first 2 slams. Sermon of Mockery was the first slam full-length album, but I feel like Internal Bleeding remained consistent throughout the 90s with brutal death metal sound. Both great bands playing today. Last one for me, Mortal Decay.
Yes.
Oh,
Mortal
Of
Decay
course.
pretty much started the frog vocal gutturals before Afterbirth, before Repudiation. We're doing the frog vocals, before Dripping. Everything is quality no matter what, whether it be Kelly, Johnny, Cadaver Art, Sickening, Forensic, the demos, all high quality stuff. The most bizarre, craziest lyrics of all time. Absolute craziest everything. It's like a diary from a madman serial killer. Now, if you're going to
Yeah.
ask me what are my 4 favorite bands, Repudiation,
Okay.
Mortal Decay, in no order. Mortal Decay will forever always be my favorite band of all time. But
Yes.
Repudiation, Mortal Decay, Scatter Remnants, and Internal Bleeding. Those 4 cement every single sound I have. Both have the early New York death metal sound, the grooves in the brutal death metal, slams, the crazy low pitch vocals, the like hip hop elements to the street sound, everything for 90s brutal death metal. That is the pinnacle of me for 90s brutal death metal at all. If I could listen to the same 4 things ever, it would be Mortal Decay, Scatter Remnants, Repudiation, and Internal Bleeding. If I
Sweet.
could, that would be it.
Sweet, man. All right. All right. All right. Nobody can doubt that, man. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, Rich, you want to add again one more, but I still got that picture saved. You want to talk to him about it?
I was gonna bring it up later, but since you mentioned it, you could pop
Yeah.
it up real quick. I'll just mention it real quick to him. Jimmy, I just wanted to share this picture with you. I took this picture back in 1992 at the Ritz in New York. Standing in the background is a very good friend of mine. His name is Scott. He's from PA, and these were a bunch of friends of ours back in the days. Ossuary from PA, the original Ossuary. I wanted to give you a big ups because you were one of the first YouTubers to whip out the demo, talk about it. Like nobody ever really spoke about this band, and this is like some underground shit. And standing in the middle is Arnott from Carcass.
Yeah, that's it right here.
Ossuary were one of the first. Well, first off, it's a PA band, but from completely different parts of where I was in Philadelphia, like 2 hours away. Ossuary, again, we're talking that Internal Bleeding, dehumanized groove sound. One of the first bands to take the New York death metal outside of New Jersey, outside of wherever in PA. Ossuary Fat is one of the top 10 greatest brutal death metal demos of all time. They had that like Mafia sample before Internal Bleeding used it on Voracious Content. for God of Subservience. I forget the song. It might have been Judgment of Dying from Ossuary. Great friends. I talked to his son who plays in thrash metal bands nowadays. He's in a different one, so there's not even any point in saying a name because by the time he puts out a thrash metal band, he's in another one. I think it's like Alex or Alex. But I have all their socials. I have an unreleased Ossuary track that I need to post. It's like rap. It's like that. It's like that Anthrax.
Oh boy.
Bring the
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah,
It's
that was
kinda
from like
that.
later on.
So, yeah, it's like really weird. I have to post it for everyone.
All right.
You know what? I got a quick question off the top of the dome because you just mentioned it. You mentioned 5 of your favorites. What about just random? It doesn't have to be 5 or 4. Your greatest brutal death metal demos.
Greatest brutal death metal demos.
Yeah.
Mortal Decay, Brutalizing Creation, Scatter Remnants, Procreating Mass Carnage, Repudiation, Purging of Impurity, Internal Bleedings, Invocation of Evil is a great one. I'm trying to think. The Dehumanized demo is great. I love the Flesh Grind demos. Those are really nice.
What about these puppies right here? Skinless and
Malignancy. Swole. I like Swollen Heaps. Again, I'm naming stuff from my top 10 demo video. Go click on my top 10 demo brutal death metal videos from like 6 years ago at this point. I mean, I've been doing this for a while, you know. But it's like, yeah, the Malignancy, Ignorance is Bless. Disfigured Paroxysm is another good New York death metal one. Torture Crypt has a good demo or EP. Sepsism. You know, I mean, the brutal death metal is much more of a demo and EP genre as opposed to like the full length. There's only like a handful of like really good like full lengths that are classics. It's much more of like demos and EPs that are like the really good stuff to me.
Yeah. You know, one of my favorite segments that Jimmy did was he does tier lists, and he did a New York death metal tier list. And you put everybody in there, but you put bands in there that I have forgotten about or not thought about in a while. So I started going back on YouTube and talking to my friends, and I was like, that's when I was like, yo, this guy knows his shit, because sometimes there's things that they slip, you know, through, and they don't get talked about.
Yeah, stuff like Burning Human and Cerebral Hemorrhage and you know, all sorts of stuff. You know, Banished. There you go.
Yeah.
That's another one of my top 10 favorites. I remember. That's really good. That to me is like the last original New York death metal album, like the last true 90s 2000s true New York death metal sound. And a lot of people feel like that too. A lot of people, that's where they cut off on like old school brutal death metal, like that 2002 2003 sound of like Mortal Decay Forensic was 2002, and then Cerebral Hemorrhage was 2001 or 2002. So it's like that's where people cut off, and that's when it became like the genre became much less of that original sound and much more of like
Yeah.
We noticed that too when Barry and I used to go to a lot of shows. There was a club in Queens called Castle Heights.
Yeah, Castle Heights.
A lot of those bands came through there, but then like around the early, like 99 2000s, that's when it started kind of like fizzling out a little bit.
You know, you did notice how everything just started, like I said, started getting a little generic and bland at some point.
Every band just wanted to be heavy, and they forgot to like make it actually listenable. And like have like substance, you know what I mean?
Yep.
And then there's the counteractive where it's like bands are really talented, and they think that the more talented they are in the song, the better it is. And you run into bands that have like 20 different vocal styles and doing like 20, 30 different things on guitar. So it's like too much of like stuff. It's like, yo, let the song breathe.
Yeah.
For a while, for like technical death metal, like what was that? Rings of Saturn, that band, it was like the craziest guitar stuff, and everyone was like, can they even play this live? It was like, this is like too much, man.
Yeah, because some people live for that, man, for some reason.
Yeah.
You see that? And then the thing is that when you see bands like that playing, and they're all about trying to, you know, you don't want to say show off, but they're just there, just playing, and they're not being, you know, they're not catering to the audience as well. You know, you got to cater to the audience too. You know,
I think one of the worst things that could ever happen live is when it's not even recognizable from like the albums and CDs. Because I remember I went to Maryland Death Fest to see Internal Bleeding and Deicide. I forget what year, might have been like 2021 or 2022. But Cataclysm played, and the Cataclysm that I am used to, it was always like everywhere you look on the band, it's like hyper blast, like super fast, gravity blast. Them and Brutal Truth were always like the fastest bands to blast. And then I remember I went down with Mortal Decay and Torture Crypt members, and we started watching Cataclysm, and it's just like groove metal. We were like, we looked at each other, we were like, I do not remember Cataclysm like this. It's like, man, like damn.
Yeah, I was at that MDF too. I noticed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were like, this is not the Cataclysm I remember. Like, I thought this band was like super fast. It was like, man.
Sometimes they change, man.
Yeah.
Rich, you got one more for Jimmy before we start getting ready to call it off?
I think I went through most of my questions. If there's anything that you like to put out there, like Instagram or promote at your Bandcamp or anything like that, or anything that you just want to put out, man, please feel free.
Right. YouTube, Instagram, my personal Instagram, just Jimmy from the Block. Instagram page is Extreme Metal Memes. Facebook is Extreme Metal Memes Demand Extreme Posting, because Instagram, they don't let you have the whole name, so it's just abbreviated. But yeah, those are my socials. Like I said, Impure Conception, going to be much more of a killer sound. It's going to make a statement. So when it comes out, be on the lookout. If you follow my stuff, I give updates on it all the time. I'm like, one more song closer. You know what I mean?
That's it.
Yeah, Impure Conception is my band. Or
yeah, and
I'm not saying like it's my band. You know what I mean?
No. But I really enjoyed that music, man. It really fucking good.
Thank you. Like I said, the main goal is to just make something unique in brutal death metal and make extreme metal again. That's the main thing,
That's it.
And also, I wanted to say that was some dope artwork too that was used on the.
Yeah, it's hand drawn from Caleb. Everything on that is hand drawn. So, like I said, he did literally everything. Like, he was gonna release it himself, and then I just came in and did. I was pretty much hired from it. I've never made a penny from the band, but I was pretty much like hired. I literally showed up, showed me the lyrics, and was like, "Sing like this," and I was like, "Okay."
Awesome.
But
awesome,
I was trying to find a band for years. I did some like stuff with some old friends, here and there, but nothing like a band. You know what I mean? So this was like my first release. But Veins of Sorrow is going to be the first thing that I can really call like mine, because I was there from the start of like creating it, putting in my influence, writing lyric. This album to me is going to be my baby.
Sweet. Yeah, it's gonna feel good, man. Once it's done and you have it in your hands, it's gonna feel great, man.
Of course.
All right. So guys, once we finish up, we have 4 tunes that we're gonna be playing that was picked by all of us. So you stick around and listen to the music. But I want to thank Jimmy for coming on, and thank you so much. All right, keep doing what you're doing, Jimmy, man, and making the underground sound alive, bro. I really appreciate it.
There's not much people influencing for like this underground anymore,
Yeah,
During the Mortician Maggots, I believe it was great. There were tons of great support for like gore grind and grindcore and like the sickest brutal death metal. Now it's just like you mentioned, Sean, Melanie, me. Sometimes people like J Dog. He's on a good day. It just depends.
Yeah, that's it, right? That's it. All right, man. So just keep it going, Jimmy, and make sure you guys go on and check out Jimmy from the Block. Always has some great videos, and I want to thank you guys for checking us out. All right, so we're gonna end it right here. This is Barry, That Goat Metal Show, along with Rich, the Solid Producer. Stay brutal.
What is it you want us to do?
myself, passing through the spheres of my vacant eyes, slipping into the cracks of abstract thought. Fluid subject fluid drips into my spine.